Today we're going to learn about user input functions, and then we're going to talk about our mid-program project. So what is user input? For the first 3 weeks of class, we learned about variables, conditionals, and loops. But how can we use these things to create real-life interactive programs? Most real-life programs use user input, which allows us, the user, to give information to the code and tailor our experience to match it. User input in Python is done with this function, input and then parentheses text. What this does is this statement prints whatever you put inside the parentheses and prompts the user to enter information. For example, here we have name equals input, what is your name, and then print name. So let's take a look at what this does. At the bottom of the screen, the computer prints what is your name, and then I'm going to answer, and then it prints out my name. So what this does is our computer creates a variable called name. It asks the user, what is your name? And whatever the user enters is stored inside name. So when I entered Dora, name became Dora. So then when I printed name, it printed out Dora. So to follow along, try coding your own program, asking for the user to input their name, and then print hi, and then their name. So pause the video and then try that, and then I'm going to show you the solution. So you should have something like this once you're finished. Now let's talk about functions. Functions are blocks of code that only run when they are called. So the format would be function and then parentheses, and then inside the parentheses you would put the parameters. Parameters are data that you pass into the function. For example, here we have a function called greet. First, we start off with the word def. Def tells the computer that you're about to define a function. So we have def and then we have greet. Greet is the name of the function. And then we have parentheses and then we have name. Name is the information that we give the function. So what the function greet does is it prints hello, it prints our name, and then it prints how are you. And then now at the bottom of the page, we're actually testing the function out. We're creating a variable called name, and then we're taking user input for that name, and then we're calling the function greet, and then giving it the name to use as information. So let's see how this works. Okay, so what this does is up here we wrote a function called greet, and the reason why this is a function is because we have the word def. When we write the word def, you're telling our computer that we're about to define a function. And functions do the same thing no matter what. All that changes is what information you're giving it. So for example, name can be anything, but greet will always do the same thing, which is print hi plus the name plus how are you. But name can be anything. So then down here, we're testing it out. Name equals input name. So what this does is it prints the question name to the screen, takes whatever we enter, and stores it as a variable called name. And then now we're calling our function greet, and we're passing in the name. So whatever name we put inside here is the same name that goes into here. So if I put Dora, name becomes Dora, and then we call the function greet with the name Dora. So it will print, "Hi Dora, how are you?" Here's another example. We have a function called subtraction. It takes number 1 and number 2, and it prints number 1 minus number 2. And then here at the bottom, we're calling the function using two numbers, 1 and 2, and it prints -1. So why do we use functions? Using functions allows us to organize our code more efficiently, and functions are only called when they're needed, which saves time when our code is compiling. So pause the video and try to code your own function that takes two numbers and prints their sum. So your program should look something like this. We create a function called add, and we have two parameters, the first number and the second number. And then what this does is it prints number 1 plus number 2. So let's do a recap of this lesson. Variables are names that our computer assigns values. The print function outputs values to our screen. The input takes in values from the user. Conditionals execute commands if certain conditions are met, like the if, elif, else. Those are all conditionals. For and while loops repeat the same code over and over. Strings are arrays of characters, or basically letters, that starts at 0. So here's the mid-program assignment, and you guys should try to work on this on your own. You're going to create a function called introduction, and then take in a parameter called name, where name is the variable assigned to the name inputted by the user. Inside the function, you should say hi to the user 5 times using a for loop. If the user's name is the same as yours, tell the user we have the same name. If it's different from yours, tell the user we don't have the same name. And you should do this using conditionals. And then call the function, and then you should call the function and test it out. So you guys should work on this if you haven't already, and if you have questions, please feel free to email me. Thank you.